is you're going to work out what h is. So h is going to be the smallest side of the triangle. Now what we have is a wee equation that we've used in the previous example, so it's called h squared, so it's just going to be h for height, and it's always going to be the largest number take away the smallest number. Okay, you can't do it the other way because we're going to eventually take the square root, and you can't take the square root of a smaller number, or sorry, of a negative number. So it's going to be 350 squared and then take away 280 squared. Okay, so just think about it. It's going to start with h, and every term's going to have a wee square. Now how you actually put that in your calculator, you just type it in the way you see it. So it's 350, we're going to then press the squared and then take away 280. Obviously when you do the test, you'll be using an actual proper calculator, not this iPad. What we then have is just press equal, and we know that h squared is going to be 44,100. Okay, now that's what h squared is. To do the opposite, to undo the squared, you have to do the square root. So to do that, you go h, and then that's going to be the square root of 44,100. Now what you can do, and the square root is just the sign that I've written, so it's the square root. Now we press equal, and it's going to be h is 210. Remember your units, because you won't get your mark if you don't have your units. Okay. Now when you actually look to see your answer, if you get an answer that's actually bigger than 350 or 280, certainly if it's bigger than 350, you know it's wrong, because that side is always going to be, this side here is always the largest side of the triangle. Okay, if it's opposite this right angle. So if you look and you've got h is equal to 44,100 or whatever the numbers are, take the square root, and that should give you this. Now the whole point of this is we're actually trying to work out what the gradient is. Now the gradient is just how steep this slope is. Okay, so that's how steep the slope is. So I've been just getting you just to redraw this triangle. We've now got 210, we know that's 280, and we know that's 350. So what you've now got is we use these two values. Okay, now where people go wrong is they don't know what to divide what. Okay, so what I could say is you just draw the line, so that's the line, like the divide line in the fraction, and just think about that number. Looks as though that's right under a line, so just put that number there, and then it's the number that you've just worked out is going to be up here. Okay, so just think about this line as being like the bottom of the triangle, and then you just put that across, and then what you've worked out goes there. So you just then go 210 divide by 280, and that gives you 0.75. Remember there's a wee button in your calculator, that I think it's S, and then there's a wee arrow to D. If you press that, it takes it from a fraction to a decimal. Now what they're saying is it mustn't exceed 0.3. okay, so that's what it mustn't exceed. Any number that's bigger means it's not safe. So if you compare that again, if you just look at the numbers after the decimal place, I'll put a wee 0 there just so it's 2 digits. 75 is bigger than 30. Okay, so you can then just say it is not safe as 0.75 is bigger than 0.3. And that's your first question done. Okay, so just h squared equals the biggest side squared, take away the smallest side squared, and then you follow it through. And maybe try and remember that wee tip, because some people are getting it the wrong way around. Okay, so on to the next one. Right, next one, we're working at the volume. Okay, so the volume is, you're going to use a formula. V is length times breadth times height. So there's going to be 3 values. Now, if you don't see all 3 values, we've only got 2. And this bit's important. It says it's a square base, and you know if it's a square, all sides are the same size. Okay, so if that's 8, that's going to be, so that's going to be 8 as well. So all you do there is you just multiply 8 times 8 times 14. Okay, you can multiply it in any order you want. That's 8 times 8 times 14. Now that gives you the volume. Again, remember the units. Okay, just double check. 8 times 8 times 14. Now it's centimetres, and it's 3 dimensions. Okay, so the volume is something about it in a 3D shape. Okay, so think about you're multiplying these 3 numbers. So just put a 3 there, and that's for cube. Now what they're saying is, so they've got a big 8-litre jug, and then they're filling up all these wee boxes with it. So what you want to do is convert this 8 litres into cubic centimetres. So if 1 litre is 1,000 cubic centimetres, then you've got 8 litre is equal to 8,000 cubic centimetres. Okay, and that's worth a mark. Now we're trying to work out how many of these would fit into it. Okay, so how many of these boxes, 896 cubic centimetres, can we get out of one that's 8,000? So all you do there is you go 8,000 and then divide that by 896. So that's 8,000 divided by 896. Press enter, and that's 8.9 boxes. Now obviously we're not going to end up having one that's going to have 0.9 full, so we have to just round it down to the nearest whole. So that's going to be 8 cubes, or just 8 boxes. Okay, so don't be tempted to round it up, okay, because we can't just conjure up 0.1 water. Okay, so it's just going to be 8 boxes there, or 8 cuboids. Right, the volume of the cuboid doubles. Okay, so the volume right now is 896, so you're just going to go 896, and remember, if it doubles, you just times it by 2. Okay, so that's 896, so that's the volume that we worked out at the start. We're just going to double it. So 896 times 2, that's 1792. Now it kind of makes sense if you double the size of the container, you're going to get half the amount you can sell, but we still have to show that. So we're going to then go 8,000, because that's still going to be all coming from this 8-litre jug. Okay, so we've doubled the size of the wee cuboids that we're filling with it. So we're going to then divide that by 1792 and see what that gives you. It should give you half of the answer that you had above eventually. So that's 4.46, and it is. So if that was 8, this is now going to be 4 boxes, or whatever the wee scenario is. Okay, so it's pretty much the exact same. I'll just change this wee highlighter. Okay, so exact same calculation. That's using the calculation that you first worked out, and then obviously they're doubling it. So this is when we're going to then divide it by the volume of this shape doubled. And then we just go into the last one. Right, this can be, it looks a bit trickier than it is. Okay, what you're doing is you're going to be painting 4 walls, so you can't paint the roof and you can't paint the floor. Obviously you're not going to be painting the window and the door, so what we're going to do is we're going to work out the area of the window. Now that window is just 1.1 times 2, and remember it's times 1.1 times 2. Get rid of all this. Right, 1.1 times 2, and that's 2.2 square metres. We're not going to paint the, no, that's a door. Magic. Right, so that's a door, right? Okay, we're not going to paint the window either. So that's 1.5 times 1, and that's just going to be 1.5 square metre. So that's the amount of area that we're not going to actually paint. We're going to paint the front wall. Okay, so if I then I'll just down here, if I go front, the front wall is 8 times 2.9. So it's just multiplying the length and the breadth. So it is 8 times 2.9. So that's 23.2. Now the back's going to be the exact same size, and you don't need to actually show the working with this one. You just go the back, 23.2. You've got the left side, and the left side is going to be 6 times 2.9. 6 times 2.9, and that is equal to 17.4, and the right side is going to be the exact same. So you've got the areas that you are going to paint. Okay, you're going to paint the front, the back, and the two sides. Obviously there's two parts that you can't paint, and that's areas of these. So what we're going to do is we're going to add all these together and then take away these. So we just have one big sum, 23.2 plus 23.2 plus 17.4 plus 17.4, take away 2.2, take away 1.5, and hopefully this works out. That's 77. So that's 77.5 metres squared. And remember your units. Okay, so you're essentially you're just working out areas of those rectangles, and you add up the four big rectangles and take away the two wee rectangles from it. Now the next wee bit is going to use this. This is quite important. You can only buy tins of paints that come in 1 litre, and it says that 1 litre covers 18 square metres. We need to cover 77.5 square metres, so what you can do is we can work out how many litres. So we know we need to cover 77.5, and we know that 1 litre covers 18. Just double check. Yep, it covers 18, so we're just going to divide that by 18. So divide that by 18, and just keep all this in the calculator, and that's going to be we'll just say 7.3 litres. Now you can only buy them in 1 litre containers, so if we bought 4 litres we wouldn't have enough, so we're going to have to buy 5 tins. Okay, so that's going to be 5 litres worth. Obviously we have some left over, but you can use that another time. So that's your 5 tins. Now they come at a price of £9.80, so we're just going to then go, well, that's 5 times £9.80. So whatever you write here, you just times it by how much it is per tin. So 5 times £9.80, and that's £49. Now the skirting board, that's that wee bit that's at the bottom of the wall, right? You might have them in the house. What you'll notice though, and if I go back to here, if I go back to the actual diagram, you've got a skirting board here, in the back of the room, and the other side that you can't see. Now, what you'll find, you don't put skirting boards on the actual door, okay? So what you want to do is add up all the sides of the room, okay? So it's really just you're finding the perimeter of the floor, okay? So we've got 8 plus 8, that's the front and the back, plus, is it 6? Plus 6, plus 6. Now we're going to then take away the width of the door, which is take away 1.1. So that's 8 plus 8 plus 6 plus 6. Take away 1.1, press equals. So you're going to have to get wood, that's 26.9 meters, okay? And remember, if it's a length, it's just going to be meters. Area is meters squared, okay? Right, hopefully that helps. Have a wee go at it. Don't panic, and do a few other examples, and you'll find it all just falls into place, okay? All it is practice, okay? Best of luck.